Shri GM Dunda Primary School and a e-learning session. Children, as we have completed chapter number 8 following the Mahatma part 1, we will continue with chapter number 10 following the Mahatma part 2. In this chapter, we will learn about the civil disobedience movement, Gandhi March, Round Table Conference, the Government of India Act, demand for Pakistan, individual Satyagrah, Quit India movement, the cabinet mission and Attlee's announcement of the independence of India. So let's start our chapter. So let's learn about Dandi March. It is also called the civil disobedience movement, which is done by Gandhiji in 1930. It was difficult to attain Swaraj without putting up a fight. At the Ahmedabad session of the Indian National Congress, the Executive Committee decided to launch a movement to attain Swaraj by breaking unjust laws in a disciplined way. It authorized Gandhiji to launch the civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement started with the breaking of the unjust salt law. The British government had monopolized the production and trade of salt for the British government and the English merchants only. Salt was made a taxable commodity which Gandhiji and other nationalists felt very unjust. Gandhiji announced in the year 1930 that he would carry out a march up to Dandi near Surat to break up the salt law. Gandhiji started the Dandi March from Sabarmati Ashram, Ahmedabad with his 78 companions on 12th March 1930. Meetings were held in every village that was on the route. Gandhiji explained to the people the characteristics of the civil disobedience movement need to break the salt law and the significance of Satyagraha in attaining Swaraj. Gandhiji reached Dandi on 5th April 1930 and on 6th April he broke the salt. Round Table Conferences. British government convened round table conferences in order to discuss the constitutional changes required for India. The first conference was unsuccessful as the Indian National Congress decided to boycott it. The second round table conference was held in 1931 in London. Gandhiji attended it as the only representative of the Indian National Congress. In this conference, the demand for separate electorate for the Dalits and for the different communities was made. Gandhiji was disappointed with this since it would segment India. Leaders of various communities did not agree and hence the conference failed. The Government of India Act 1935. The Government of India Act was the second phase in the constitutional changes in India, but it turned out to be inadequate and disappointing for the nationalists. According to Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the degree of autonomy introduced at the provincial level was quite limited. The provincial governors retained important reserved powers and the British authorities also retained a right to suspend responsible government. The elected representatives of India were given a very limited authority. This was against their expectations. As per the Act, elections were held. Gandhiji suggested that the Indian National Congress would form the federal legislature only if it is guaranteed that the governors would not exercise the exclusive powers granted to them and act as per the advice of the elected provincial ministries. Viceroy and National Secretary agreed with certain clarifications and Congress and Muslim League formed the federal legislature. The experiment of the provincial Swaraj continued for 2 years. When the World War II broke out in the year 1939, the British government declared India a part of it without consulting the federal legislature. As a sign of protest, the communities resigned. Children now will learn about the Lahore Resolution or Demand for Pakistan 1940. Muhammad Iqbal and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali were the Muslim leaders who propagated that the Hindus and Muslims should form two separate nations as they represented two different clusters. The resolution of demand for Pakistan was passed in Muslim League session held at Lahore in March 1940. It was suggested to form the independent nation having the majority of the Muslim population. After this, the creation of Pakistan became the main objectives of the Muslim League. Maulana Azad was born in Mecca. He knew many languages and was a scholar of Islam. He advocated the unity of all the religions. He was always very active in Gandhian movement. The Quit India Movement 1942. Mahatma Gandhi started a new chapter of freedom movement after the World War II. He asked the Britishers to leave India immediately. Gandhiji asked the people of India to follow the principle of do or die and continue the struggle against the Britishers in a non-violent manner. The historical resolution of Quit India was passed in the Mumbai session of Indian National Congress. Gandhiji and other leaders were arrested on 9th August. It gave a fresh impetus to the movement. The various public meetings, processions, and protests and demonstrations became order of the day across the nation. A large number of farmers and youth joined this movement. There were incidents of attacks on government buildings and on communication facilities like post and telegraph. The government adopted suppressive measures like mass arrest, confiscation of property, and imprisonment to curb the movement. More than 1 lakh people were arrested and put into jail. Thousands of people were shot. But the Britishers realized that it was the end of their rule in India and their hold over the people of India would not be for long. Cabinet Mission Plan 1946. The British Cabinet Mission 1946 of India aimed to discuss and plan for the transfer of power from the British government to Indian leadership, conferring India with its independence. Formulated at the initiative of Clement Attlee, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, it was represented by 3 British ministers. The proposals were: Number 1, to establish total self-rule in the country. Number 2, to divide the whole country into total 3 provinces. Number 3, allow India to design its own constitution. Number 4, formation of an interim or provisional government till the constitution was framed. The Congress secured majority in the following elections and formed the interim government under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. The poor response irritated the Muslim League and they declared 16th August 1946 as the direct day. As a result, communal tension prevailed in the country and many parts witnessed the communal riots too. However, the Muslim League maintained its position in the government through varied protests till the formation of Pakistan. Independence and partition of India. The communal integrity was jeopardized by the attitude of the Muslim League with the interim government. The British Prime Minister on 20th February 1947 announced in the British Parliament that latest by June 1948, the powers would be completely transferred to the Indians. The enthusiasm and happiness of Indian leaders and the common people knew no bounds. Gandhiji welcomed this decision of the Britishers by saying that it was their best decision. Here we have completed our chapter number 10. I hope you understood the concept. It's time for me to say you goodbye. So, goodbye children. Have a nice day.